flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jay Edwards.
Present.
Deb Janik, present. Tom Haley.
Present.
Alex Cody, absent. Ruth Hollenbach.
Present.
Jennifer Jocelyn.
Present.
Brendan McNally.
Present.
Jennifer Rashley.
Present.
And Sherry Ackray, absent. Mike Dakotas.
Present.
And Joseph Souza.
I'm sorry. I have no idea what's going on.
It's like a lie.
Very good. I don't think we need to do a public forum because there's no public here. Unless somebody would care to comment on anything. I'll make one comment just so everybody knows. Alex has resigned and they are beating the bushes to find the next highest vote getter. They had one, but he's also on the recreation committee and he wants to stay there, so he's declined. We're down to people that have like one vote write-ins.
Wow.
Names like Donald Duck, alcoholic.
I want him.
It's silly.
I'll go.
We'll see how that shakes out. Okay, first on the agenda, we have the senior center, and the only reason I did that way is she's got a way to go to get home. And it's not pretty out tonight, so we'll let her go first.
May I ask something
Yes,
on that? So senior center has both operating and capital
Yes.
pieces to the budget, and in the capital one, Rick Rogers has been instrumental in looking at what needs to be done and how it can be spread out and what it might cost. So
Great.
if they can both answer your questions, that would be good.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to be on page 13, 6110.
Depends on which version.
Which one
Oh,
are
am
we?
I looking to, yeah, I thought they had the same number.
January 15. You've got, not the docket.
Too many books. Okay, so what did we want to do with this? Did we want to ask questions, or?
I think if we can go through and just have pointed out just anything that's different, that's
Okay,
changed,
sure,
that's
sure.
gone up or down.
Yep.
Well, not a lot of change on
There really
the
hasn't been
operations.
a lot, no.
I mean, one of the biggest
changes is the activity account. It was 12.5 and I'm asking 14, and that's because I have more classes now and I require more for my instructors. But I've also been given more to the town for the classes, so I think it kind of is a wash, so.
Because people who go to these classes pay for them.
Right, and then I write that back to the
You take that
town.
money and turn it back to the
Exactly.
town, so it's,
The last 2 times I wrote back to the town of the last 6 months, from July 1 through December 31st, it was $7,473. And the one prior to that, January 1st through June 30th, 2019, it was $7,563. So that's over
you're more-
15,000. So
more than covering.
I'm more than covering it, but that's why it's important to get that increase, because I have more classes, it generates more, except,
But
you know.
it's also only fair that, the seniors are paying money for classes.
They do, they pay.
That money should go
Well, this was
to
the money
them,
that was supposed to
not,
be for the roof they didn't get.
not to us. It should go to their classes, so it's 15,000.
Right, and that, well, that comes back here, but then you give us money to pay for the instructors, so it
Yeah,
balances.
But you're still ahead.
Well, you're still ahead, actually.
We're ahead, yeah.
The town is ahead.
Yeah,
so-
exactly,
So,
exactly.
but it's still covering, but I did need more, because I did have to transfer money into that account to pay for instructors in the past, so I'm trying to get enough so that I'll be able to cover them with that account. So that's one change. I did ask for money for education, because it was in my contract for the last 3 years that I could have but I didn't have anything in my budget. So I would have had to take it from another account, so I did ask to put that in, so I could go to a seminar or some kind of education.
Do you have any particular education and seminars that you are planning to attend, or?
At this moment, no. I want to make sure there's money to do that, but I would love to. I like to get as much education as I can, and, you know, it would be good. But I haven't planned anything because I didn't have the funds to do so. Unless I took it from something else, but I don't want to take it from another account, you know, in case
Janet,
I need it.
do you know of any courses that you would like to take? Do you know what's available that would actually help you in this position?
As far as education courses?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking more on seminars, you know, for like directors, seminars, that kind of thing. I mean, I'd love to go to school too, but, I mean, I haven't really pursued that option at this point, but
Thank you.
gerontology, you know, it's always good to get. Rhode Island College has a lot of programs that are, they have some free ones too, so I attended some last year, which I thought were really good. So, you know, I try to do as many free things as possible, but some things do cost money.
Sir? Yeah, it does. So does anybody have any other questions or comments?
Well, I have on capital, but I'll wait for Rick to give his little presentation first.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yep.
And this is to you, Jan. Since it's in the contract,
Since it's what?
since it's in the contract to have, money spent toward education and seminars, would that be an issue with the town council?
I don't think it will be. We have some other items that we sometimes say, believe it or not, Porter Jones is another item that there's no budget, but we are supposed to pay for it. So, you know, we're trying to correct those kinds of things, and I think that will probably be accepted. There may be a question as to, you know, how much is needed, et cetera, et cetera.
And it seems like since we're several years behind, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
It's okay, sorry.
Yes? No? All right, Rick, would you care to,
Left, sounds good over here.
care to help us out with the capital request?
Okay, so the capital is, this fiscal year 15, we requesting 15 for fiscal year 21, and we have in the 5-year plan again, 15 in fiscal year 22. And that is based on our review. We re-reviewed it this year, but that was started by the review in end of 2018, and it came up with those numbers that are in your backup documents. This year, we would have the ability, not counting doing the roof over the back room, the parking lot, handicap signs, and the water line repair. We'd have about, I think, 8,400, the note says, for this year that we could do some of those items. That would leave about 28,200 for this year, the fiscal year 21 and 22. And those items are again listed: the main building south walls, south wing building south wall, southwest basement entry, et cetera, exterior masonry walls, door landing, striping of the parking lot, the interior flooring, the basement flooring, and again, the asbestos removal in the basement.
So that, oh wait, did you say that
Yeah.
would leave? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just doing the math that would show that we'd have about $28,200 remaining for what was estimated in the next fiscal 2 years. And that is why the 15 this year and 15 next year. So, and I would expect by then, at least $1,800 would become apparent that we need to do. But all we're worried about right now is the 15 in fiscal year 21, and we have more than enough needs to spend that money. And again, these estimates for shingling walls, et cetera, when you do those estimates, roofs and walls, you project, okay, you'll need to do that in the next year or two, or the next 3 or 4 years. And those projections are still the same. And you're looking at, by now, next 2 to 3 years, 0 to 1 year, 2 to 3 years, as listed in the backup. The interior flooring, the same thing, that should be done within the next year or two. In the basement flooring, if there was enough money, you'd do it now, since there's a dirt floor. And asbestos removal, as long as you're not using the room and not anything other than it's covered, you don't need to remove it right away, but it's not a good idea to have the asbestos wallboard in the basement.
Jan, you had
I
something?
just want to make sure that you've seen the backup material under the heading of 5-year plan senior center that has a pretty detailed analysis of what is needed, and also the year in which it either is happening, the current year, or in the year that is proposing to get the work done.
And these are listed, and of course I discussed this with Janet and Jan. These are not, fix a hole in the wall or, replace a toilet. These are more capital projects: shingling walls, shingling roofs, fixing basement floors, et cetera.
And in case you can't find that document, that's under the non-recurring capital tab.
It's the last 2 pages of the capital.
No, it's on the front.
Jan and Rick, when we were in the senior center, Joe pointed out that outside on the southeast corner, there's literally a hole in the side of the wall.
This is,
But there's like, literally, you put a couple hands through it. And the type of thing that if there's a big snow and a melt, and then a big freeze, an expansion. Anyway, that's all policy in your schedule.
Right, and that, Jennifer, is the same logic that we use on rating them from 1 to 2 years, 0 to 1 year, and doing the things that would cost more money if you held off. So that's the kind of thing that we would be doing when the weather breaks and we get somebody over there.
Yeah. I was wondering, all right, so we put, last year and the year before, money was put in the budget for the roof. I'd like to know why bids weren't done. Now that the roof is leaking, it didn't leak then, we tried to do it before it leaked. Now it's leaking. So why didn't bids go out this spring? Now, I knew the year before, they didn't go out, and the money rolled back into the general fund because it wasn't encumbered. We're getting ready to go into a new fiscal year, and the bids weren't done last spring so that we could have it done last summer. The money was there. I don't understand why the bids didn't go out. I understand you got the big plan, but the problem was the roof needs to be replaced now, and it's leaking. So I just don't understand why you tell me, well, it's in the plan. The holes in the foundation has been there for over 2 years. We pointed them out last year. We were told, oh, if the guys, you know what? Manny and Phil don't have the time. That should have been subbed out. We should have went out to bid, got a mason, and fixed it. The money's in the accounts. Why is the money being put back into the general fund at the end of the year and the work's not being done? I can go on. We didn't go out to bid for paving. Until what, December? We didn't spend any money last fall paving. It's getting old. Why aren't the bids going out? I need to know why.
Joe, excuse me, let's just stick with the library for now.
Well, I know we're on the senior center. I haven't got to the library yet. You know, believe me, that's another problem, that we put money in a budget and it never went out to bid.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a request? I honestly don't believe it's necessary to yell.
No, it's
Okay, so please.
But can we answer his question, please?
No, I think that the questions being raised are fine, they're legitimate, and we better have an answer for it. So that's my view of it, but there's no need to yell at us as we're trying to address questions. If we've failed to do something, shame on us, and we'll take responsibility for it. But let's try not to do that. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah, could we have the answer to his questions? Thank you.
Yes, as far as past fiscal years, I'm not sure I have the answer to that. This fiscal year, certainly that I might have been remiss not having it done in the autumn, but it will be something that's done in the spring.
Very good. Any other things on the senior center?
No, and I'll raise my damn voice if I feel like it, because I'm upset, and people need to know
Joe,
things are not being done,
Joe,
and it ends up, it costs us more in the end.
get straight.
I will, and don't tell me how I'm gonna act, okay? I was elected
All right,
to do what I do, and I've been doing it since I've been elected.
just calm down.
If they don't like it, too bad. Too damn bad. When they came here last year and made promises things were gonna be done, that's betrayal to me. It didn't happen, and now the damn roof's leaking, and it's destroying the ceiling. And yeah, I'm mad. Just like I'm mad at the library and the other things that didn't get fixed. When all we got was lip service. Oh yeah, it's gonna get done. I'm tired of lip service, and that's why I'm mad.
Anything else on the senior center?
Yeah, I would like to say one thing.
Yes, Brett?
Go ahead, Brenda.
So I was wondering, Rick, if you could go through, in the five-year plan, the things that are in this current fiscal year that we anticipate. Are there things that are on here that won't get done, or that?
Yes, there are items in the five-year plan that will not be done this fiscal year. What's going to be done this fiscal year, between now and June 30th, is the roof over the back room, the parking lot, and the water line upgrade. And we project doing some shingling of walls and repair of the masonry walls. And that's gonna depend on how much money is left. We anticipate right now about $8,000 or $8,400. But when you do a water service underground and when you do the roof, you're not sure exactly what is going to come in at.
So some of the things, though, we're talking about, that the roof is then anticipated to be done in this current fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And,
sir. Go ahead.
And then the masonry work that we've seen is scheduled to be done.
Yes.
Yeah,
Just two things. One is that, well, first of all, I want to say that the questions raised and the concerns raised by Joe, I agree with. Okay, so I accept that, and we will take responsibility for it. Secondly, for better or worse, somehow it was missed that there was a significant amount in the capital budget for the senior center. Until I saw proposals for the operating budget, I had no idea. So I asked, what's going on and why are we not using that money? So in fairness, basically a mistake was made in that regard. Since then, we've all worked together to sort of update the plan. So the document that you see for the 5 years, went back like, okay, so what is going to get done this year? And so when it says FY20, that's this year. What is going to be, we're going to try to do next year. With apologies that some of it didn't get done sooner, but this is the schedule that the best we can do right now. Paving is another issue. Actually, quite a bit of paving was done, but there will be a whole bunch of additional paving this coming spring.
Thank you for the clarification, and that's great news, especially for the senior center.
so to recap, the money that is in figuratively this year's budget is going to get spent on these things. And the money that you're asking for the budget that we're discussing now, coming, is part of this 5-year plan, and you have things that you're going to do on that. And hopefully, since this has happened, we're going to have a few more eyes, other than Joe and a few other people, eyeballing this and making sure that it doesn't slide or slip again, which is what gets people upset. They look in the budget and they say, well, yeah, we gave them the money, and for whatever reason, they didn't spend it. They don't understand that. We haven't lost it. Yeah, it went in the general fund, but it didn't get used for where it was supposed to. And then the other comment about using outside contractors, well, I had a long conversation with Rick about what our building department does and can do and what they're tasked with. And two guys in a town this size with the buildings, the age that they are, in addition to having to do janitorial services and all the, plowing the library parking lot and shoveling walks and all that, there is no way that they're going to be able to do it. Sure, we get more bang from the buck if a town employee could use that money to build, to do the work, but it's probably just not feasible or possible. So, yeah, we should probably sub it out. Yeah, for the same $500, you won't get as much work done that you thought, but at least you'll be getting it done and progress will be made and things will get fixed. So that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing.
Hello, Chair. Could I say one thing? So along the same lines, Janet, if it's your senior center, you're the director. If you see that something's not getting done that was on the budget, pursue it. You can't just, if you see there's a leak, there's a roof issue, because, they're busy. They have lots of things on their plates, and you're the one at the senior center. So just in the future, everybody, okay. Thank you.
But ultimately, DPW director, myself, takes responsibility for things that don't get done that should be done.
Question, who's going to do the water line? Is that in-house, or are we having?
DPW, along with assistance from North Tiverton Water.
Yeah, North Tiverton is going to do it.
I'm just wondering if you have it as capital expense, but usually we don't, what's the capital expense then? What, copper line?
It's, what would be, I put it in the 5-year plan because it's not considered just routine maintenance or repair.
I understand, but it's not going to take away from the capital expense budget, except for maybe a roll of copper and a valve, right? That's the only purchase for a water line, and then the rest of the labor is coming out of DPW. We're paying those guys already. That's my only point, so it's...
Well, that's hopeful. It's an old building.
The only other thing I want to bring up, and I know it's ancient history, but those of us who've been on this committee or watched this committee for years, the reason why we usually used to put the money in the different budgets was so that the director could make sure that the stuff gets done. I mean, Janice was vigilant, the other Janice, and she used to demand the money get in her budget because it was a big feud between, you know, because could getting the guys there. So she would actually have private guys come in and do the work because she couldn't wait on the maintenance guys anymore. Didn't wait for things to get, that's my only point, you know, kick them in the butt.
Yeah, maybe we should go back to that and encourage it.
Well, the money is in her budget, I know, but it's under, I understand, I'm saying, that's why we did that in the past, because the department heads used to demand it, because they couldn't wait on the maintenance guys. I mean, they're just too busy.
Yes, they are. I think they are.
Picking up trash alone, I mean,
Yes,
it's,
John.
Just one other thing about that I've tried to clarify the role of DPW when it comes to facilities management, meaning maintenance and management, and that sometimes it's not really realistic to expect program staff to take that on. I do agree that, you know, it's your program, it's your facility, so you need to be after it, and we know that Janet actually is doing that. But I do want to clarify that increasingly, I have tried to clarify that DPW is responsible for the facilities management. Now, that's easier said than done, because DPW only has so many people, whether it's maintenance people or the building maintenance or the other one. So there is that question of, you know, when do we go out with a private contract rather than, and I think that needs to be, you know, evaluated on an ongoing basis, and I know Rick is looking at that pretty carefully right now.
Well, that's at your level and the director's level. You guys get together and you, at some point, you say, well, it's time, we gotta hire somebody, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Overall, you know, just speaking for myself, Janet, I think you do a hell of a job.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're really engaged, you're really involved, you really, it's your thing.
Yeah, that's
And
it. Senior is
I'm sure the
inspiring.
senior
It's
citizens,
really-
I'm now among them, and myself, appreciate your efforts.
You can sit on the new bus. You can sit on the new bus.
I'll take you for a ride.
Maybe I could be the driver?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh.
You could all fit.
One thing I meant to ask, and you can, if I was wrong, did you tell us at the site visit that you have 3 donations and whatever, the money in the pot to put in the ductless air conditioning
Yes,
system?
yes. I'll be doing it beginning of March. We're doing it.
So you'll be able to take
Yeah,
that.
and Rick was helpful in choosing appropriate. We went over we had many folks that came to give us quotes and setups and whatnot, so we've been working on that. So, yeah, we were lucky to get money through Twin River and through the Bank Newport, and also from a legislative grant. So between all of that, we've got the money to do it, so.
So,
Yeah.
And Janet did all that.
yeah, so here we have another example of a
I-
town employee or whoever going that extra mile to get what's needed and to save the town a significant amount of money.
I did the same with the automatic doors. I did that through a grant, and I went through different companies, and we did that. That was $10,000 through grants, so we did that. And I did it for the dishwasher, got our dishwasher.
Yeah.
Yeah, little things like, little pieces.
Janet, who wrote the grants?
I do.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And some of them don't require so much of a written grant, but a report afterwards. But I do some little grants here and there.
And let's not forget the bus.
And thank the chief for that. He was the one responsible for
We
that.
can thank the chief of police for
Yeah,
that.
no, that's huge. That's really huge for us, and it's beautiful. I don't know if you've seen it riding around. It's got Tiverton
Yes.
colors on it.
Sort of market basket this week.
Yep, red and gold lettering. Yeah, we're thrilled. We're thrilled. So. Yep.
Anything else?
No, I just want to say that every year we go and you've added more programs, and there's just so many different outreach programs that you've brought in that is just really great to see with our seniors.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm having fun. They're
I would also add, my dad lived at Secana Bay for a couple of years, in the last couple of years of his life. And it is so much more upbeat at the senior center, and there's such a sense of community, and so
Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for doing all this, too. I know this is a lot of work.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Too.
And thank you for putting me first, I appreciate that. Sorry for years past. All right, bye.
We don't have the tax assessor, do we? We have the tax collector. Okay, the tax assessor isn't among us. The tax collector, however, is.
Okay, I have to recuse myself because of
I'm sorry, John?
my cousin.
So congratulations, you got moved up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on the wrong page.
Page 7.
Yeah,
Yep,
page
on
7.
January 15th.
2150. So the tax collector is, pretty much it is what it is. There's no big changes here. As I said before, we really won't have any idea what salaries are really gonna be until the treasurer has all the final numbers.
One item, consulting services has bumped up by 5%.
The reason why I did that was, that is the fee that we pay to the collection agency for the accounts that we turn over. And the 5-year historical average has been greater than $5,000. And this year, to date, I'm already at 81.83% after the last bill. So I think I'm gonna run short in that account again this year. So trying to prevent a future shortage, that's why I bumped that up.
Okay, thank you. And I see the actual 218, 219, and that's 2019. It shows the actual is over 5,000, closer to 5,400. Will you go over 5,000?
It's an unknown because I just turned over the 2016 motor vehicle bills, and just this week, we collected almost $3,000 in motor vehicle payments, but we also owed them a $700 collection fee. So that's what bumped it to the 81.83. So if they keep collecting on those accounts that I turned over, I may go over, but I don't know if they'll actually collect on them or not.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Appreciate it.
Any questions? Yes, John?
There is actually also a capital item for the tax collector. It has to do with software.
Oh, yeah.
So separate from the software maintenance that's in the, okay.
This is for department-specific software. So where we try to do IT, that's the normal, every office has sort of similar needs. We try to do that out of the consolidated account under tax, under town administrator. This is one of those examples, and it's a very expensive one. That is very specific to the tax collector's office.
And it's yet another one of those things that we have to have and can't escape, right? So as Jan just mentioned, just so everybody knows, he's making a concerted effort to try to consolidate as much as possible all the departments under one communications umbrella, one software umbrella, which will be, what, Windows 10? And instead of having every department piecemeal their little piece of that pie. So if you can do that successfully, there'll be an economy of scale. If we can get one provider who you can deal with. So that's sort of ongoing. Could be huge. It could be, who knows?
But in this instance, the capital request for the software, that's a $30,000.
Yeah, this is proprietary.
Right, that's separate than.
Yeah, they're the only ones that will use that.
It will be the assessor's office as well as the collector's office that will need the software upgrade, because the program that we're operating with now is written in Box Pro, which Microsoft is soon not going to be supporting, so it's forcing the upgrade.
Oh, so you have to do something.
Yes, we don't know the exact date, but we know it is coming, so that's why we put it in the budget, knowing that there's going to be a huge expense for the software upgrade coming up. And I didn't want to throw it in mid-season and say, oh, surprise, so we're trying to prepare.
So that'll be upgraded this upcoming year, but then it's not an annual
No, it's
upgrade?
not an annual, it's just the software itself
Right.
They're actually creating the software now, so it's not even up and running yet. It's in the testing phase.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you,
not,
Microsoft.
it's not an app, is it?
No.
Couldn't exist.
Just in the interest of full disclosure, I think the request is probably for less than what it's actually going to cost.
Okay.
And so since it's a little hard at this point to get a definitive number on that, because they're still working on that, this is what Tony Lynn wanted to put in right now, because if we need to go out for, whatever, enter into an agreement with them, we will need to be able to pay things down. But the actual cost could be significantly more, so don't be surprised if for next year's budget, there's another request for the same item.
Well, it's far better to have a placekeeper at least there now, rather than be blindsided and suddenly have to go to a contingency fund, which may have been exhausted, who knows? And then what do you do? Anything else? Ruth? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very quick.
Okay. Next up is the treasurer, and keep in mind, what I mentioned briefly, she has no definitive numbers for what went on with contracts, which drives Social Security, and so many other things.
Good evening. How are you? So we already did my budget and debt service. So are there any additional questions on that?
On your budget?
We did the debt service, the first meeting.
First meeting.
Yeah, we did that service, it is what it is. I thought, when I was at the town council meeting on Tuesday, and I thought somebody asked you, due to all your consolidation efforts and all that, what have we saved? Did
I have
hear
that right here.
Just as a point of information.
In actual dollars, $3,730,358.88.
Wait, can you say that one more time?
It's a lot.
$3,730,358.88.
And that's because of consolidations,
Refinancing the bonds.
refinancing, that kind of thing.
Since, thank you.
Saving the town that money.
That's a huge number.
Thank you.
I think you had said when you were here before that we have consolidated, we've
Everything.
refinanced everything that we can at this point.
There would have to be a significant decrease in rates, I mean, to almost 0%, before you do anything else.
You're better than the casino.
Yeah, but don't, well, this was over, the long haul, but 2 years, the TIF bond will be paid off, so that's a win.
So I put in here that these are gonna be in no particular order. So,
So you just want to go ABC?
yeah.
Okay, so the audit of the town, we're going to be going out to RFP this year. It's consistently, as long as I've been here, anywhere between $20,000 and $23,000 a year. We split that with the school. So I just kind of put a little increase in there, 25,000. I'm expecting, you know, we had like 4 bidders last time, and the high was almost like 30,000. Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
I'm sure you'll take the low bidder.
Yes, we did, but I mean, I'm just saying, you know, you never know, it's 3 years later. If that's the high bid, you don't know where the range is gonna be. Pension plans, again, they are what they are. The state dictates the rate. It's calculated based on the salaries in each of the pension pools. So those numbers are going to change because this budget does not reflect the recent ratification of the last 2 contracts. However, that money is in the contingency fund. So it will come out of the contingency fund and be allocated among the departments. So it should be a net zero to the bottom line. Same thing with the Social Security. That's going to be recalculated, but we funded the contingency fund with what we thought we would need.
Contingency
The town
This-
council contingency fund,
for this fiscal year or for the budget of 21?
the proposed year.
Correct.
So you'll see changes in those line items. Let's see, the OPEB trust fund, the employer share, last year was the first year that, you know, there was an appropriation of $100,000. We have a qualified trust. We have about almost 300,000 in there now with the contributions from the employees. So I would recommend that we fund it again. Our OPEB liability actually decreased slightly from 24 million to 23 million. But I think it's just something we have to keep chipping away at.
I don't know if this is the place or the time to ask this, but I'll do it anyway. Pension plans,
Mm-hmm.
particularly retirees. No, you know what, I'll move it, I'll ask it a different way later.
How much later? Next on the list, unemployment security, we are self-funded, so that number is always a guess, but it's usually relatively low. We don't have a lot of layoffs. Right now, I think we have 2 open cases, and so we are at, where's the actuals, which you guys got? What's revenue? It was here. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so unemployment security right now, last year was 11,000. So far to date, we've already spent 9,400. So I don't know how long those claims are gonna go for, you know, if they shut them off, if they've run their course. Usually it was 26 weeks, but the government extends it every now and then.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
The
Okay.
economy the way it is.
So.
When you get reemployed, it goes away, right?
Right. So that number has always been roughly $10,000, $15,000. Unfunded liability represents anything we may owe to potential retirees. given the year. Last year, well, the year we're in right now, we're already over by $50,000 because we had so many retirements. So we're going to have to work some magic there and find that money someplace. But these people are leaving, and we have to pay them what they're due.
Is that mostly police?
Actually, we had several fire.
Oh, really?
We had 2 police, 2 fire. Yeah, at
We got
least.
warned about that last year, didn't we?
I remember the police, I didn't remember the fire.
Yeah. Actually, I think we had more than 2.
Yeah.
Because they're not just necessarily retirees, they could just be moving to another position.
Another community.
So that's always been funded around $100,000 a year, and it's usually based on the really good projections from the chiefs of if they, suspect anybody's going to be leaving, or if they have that knowledge that somebody's going to be leaving. I'm not really sure why municipal court's under here for me.
Because I thought I heard it.
Municipal
Yeah,
court is under
the police chief.
Yeah, you explained that to
You
me.
can either do it then, or I can answer questions, because
It's a relatively,
It's pretty much.
It's the judge.
It is what it is thing.
the judge, the software, and some supplies.
Less than what it was last year, the request.
And
And the request was reduced, again, looking at what the status is currently in the current fiscal year. And given that we're well below 50%, we reduced it. And the other piece there is that you don't see the line item for computer services, I believe, because the chief has managed to consolidate that with the police department.
any questions so far? So up next is insurance, which would be our health for actives and retirees, dental for active and retirees, and life insurance. So you will see there is a decrease in the employer share of the health savings accounts, which is primarily the result of the negotiations for police and fire. They're going to be paying a greater share than they have been, and it's, I think by 2021 or 2, they'll be paying the whole thing. That's in the contract. They're the deductible, the 2 or the 4,000.
So is this reflective of, that this is the existing contract?
The ones that were negotiated last year.
Right.
And they last for 3 years, so we can kind of project what's going to happen. I also try to, be mindful that if people do leave and we have to hire new people, we do have to fund them. So there's got to be a little bit of room in there for that. As far as the premiums go, we have not gotten anything from the trust yet indicating what the increase is going to be. So what I did was I looked at 2019 actual, which was lower than we had projected, primarily because we had so many staffing vacancies and unfilled positions. So I projected it out as if those positions were full. And, based on if we have full staff and everybody takes insurance, I have to assume that. I can't assume that they won't. We only have a handful of people who don't participate. So that $1,650,000 is based on that number, but that doesn't necessarily include any increase that the trust might. Now, we were surprised last year there was no increase. At the 11th hour, it was actually, there was no, well, it's all based on the activity in the pool.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
So if people in the pool were healthier and the spending was down, whatever they do and work their magic, there was a slight decrease. Same thing for dental. The life insurance is down. The firefighters agreed to go on the town's life insurance, which we were able to negotiate, Mary Lou and Jan were able to negotiate a lower rate. So you see a significant difference in that. And property and workman's comp, again, we have not gotten the numbers from the trust, but this is all based on historical increases. And I usually try to be pretty conservative, but then again, I don't want to be caught short. So, street lighting. Didn't we already talk about street
Yes.
lighting?
We cried about it.
Street lighting is one of those things that we just have a hard time wrapping at least I do, wrapping my mind around this whole thing.
Well, I think since the last time we discussed it, we got some news that there was hopefully going to be, within 4 to 6 weeks, National Grid was going to have our bills for us. So if that's the case, then hopefully, once we have all of those bills, we'll be able to, take a kind of a global look at what it costs us for the whole year and have a better number. So I think the 120, I actually think it might be too much. I'm hopeful, but I don't know because we only have 6 months of data. And we don't have the winter,
Right.
And you need more streetlights.
Yeah.
And Tiverton is not the only town in that
Right.
position. It's been a difficult experience for several municipalities.
We should all go and pick at the place.
Well, you'd think they'd want to bill us.
You would think.
So, I mean, we do badger them every few weeks. The assistant treasurer, she keeps a log of all of the conversations and, we want to pay them.
They don't hesitate to bill us.
Well, apparently it's just been a lot.
Explain that you're not generating that revenue, like if you work for National Grid, like how you're not generating, because if it's every town too, like the kind of money that they're not generating payments for.
You gotta
In the
wonder.
private sector, you wouldn't.
It wouldn't be allowed. Wouldn't be allowed.
Because it's huge amount, I mean, it's just huge amounts of money.
Mhm.
But an estimate that they accrue, maybe 120,000.
Thing too, with all the payouts that they still have to do.
I know.
Well, I started to ask this question in the wrong spot, but now that we're on insurance, I will ask. Retirees, and maybe you don't know. Do we retire, we provide them with dental and health insurance. What happens when they go on Medicare?
When they retire from the town, depending on what contract they retire under, dictates what they get for health insurance and what the terms of that health insurance and/or dental is. When they turn 65, they are signed up for Medicare and put on Plan 65,
Okay.
which is a very
Very good plan.
and it's a very modest plan in terms of the cost. And if they were on a family plan, then the spouse has to find their own insurance. We do offer them COBRA in the meantime if they need to do that, if their spouse is significantly younger than the retiree. You run into that where one's 65 and the other one is not. So that creates a little bit of a problem, but it's what we do. Mary Lou does it.
All right, so, but the point is they do, like the
Get
private
removed.
sector, they're required to be on Medicare.
Absolutely.
And then Plan 65 will be the secondary payer to Medicare.
Right.
All right, so we've done what we can with that.
So
That
you
includes-
carry the spouse until 60, till the employee reaches 65?
Yes. If they're on a family plan when they leave.
And is there any contribution for that family member? Does the employee still have to contribute?
They, depending on which plan they're on, and like some of the former retirees, some of them pay like $900 a year. It all depends on what contract they retired under. Currently, they are responsible for, if they retire under the HSA plan, they are responsible for the entire deductible. But then the police and fire have a couple of different contractual issues for, they still get removed at 65, but when they retire, they can have options of like family for 10 years, or no, single for 10 years, family for 5. I don't honestly remember exactly what they were, but that was part of the whole negotiations, and that was also where we saw the decrease, the increase in them taking on the employer's share.
And on the deductibles, if they don't use that, I'm so sorry, on the deductibles, if you have an employee that contributes whatever the dollar amount is, and they don't use that within that year, it rolls to the next,
Yes.
correct?
It's an HSA. We fund the whole card, then through payroll deductions, we take their share. If they don't use that deductible, it rolls over to the next year. We fund the card again.
And their contribution stays the same, even if
It-
they had a rollover, so
Yes.
it would accrue.
Exactly. So for family on the 3-6 plan, they pay $3,000 every year.
Which is fair, because some other neighboring communities is 4. So that's fair.
So it's fair to say that during these current and finalized contract negotiations that the town administrator and the town council have been doing, we have received, I don't know, significant concessions from these unions to, they'll absorb some of the cost, which is kind of unusual in my experience. They usually dig their heels in and won't budge.
You see that savings too. You saw the OPEB liability. I mean, it only went down a little bit, but the more we are able to control the costs, especially on the retiree side, that has an effect on our OPEB liability, a positive effect.
So these are all positive things.
Denise, or maybe Jan, you could help. I think it was last year, or the year before, one of the things that you had mentioned was employees who retire and then are eligible for the certain benefits, but then get another job in another municipality. Is there, and that there's actually quite a bit of money on the table there, and so it's hard for us to chase that money and to know where someone's working. Is there something that perhaps within the league, within Rhode Island, or something that trying to address? Because are we different in terms of the way we handle it than other towns, trying to get that money back or to stop paying a benefit when someone takes a job somewhere else?
Do you want me to answer? Well, it's not so much the contracts, but most of them for police and fire say, if they retire and become employed elsewhere and adequate or similar in coverage and cost, and they can be offered health insurance elsewhere, they're supposed to take it. Many years ago, under another town administrator, they attempted to send out affidavits for the retirees to return and sign, saying, I may be working, but I am not eligible, so just to prove. I'm not sure any of them came back. It's a hard thing to track. I've only, and it could be almost a full-time job.
Trying to administer that, figure that out.
Administering that piece of the program. It could be a worthwhile job, absolutely.
Would it be worth doing for a year?
A family plan costs the town between $17,000 and $20,000 a year for one retiree if they're on a family plan. So, absolutely. I remember reading about Warwick. Their human resources department really enforces those contractual rules. And one of the ways they do that is the retiree has to provide proof in terms of their income tax return, their W-2s, to demonstrate whether or not they're working somewhere, and, you know, they have to, the onus is on them to prove that they still deserve the insurance.
Is that written into their contract, their contract with the town?
There's verbiage regarding that. I don't know how enforceable it is, or exactly, you know, it's open to interpretation too. Is my coverage, our coverage is really good. Is your coverage just as good? My doctor's not under that plan. Does that negate their opportunity to, you know, I mean, you could argue it all kinds of ways. But it's one of those things that, you know, if you had a concerted effort, there could be significant savings.
Just for general information, a couple of town council meetings ago, one of the councilors brought up the idea of maybe it would be beneficial to have an HR person that worked for the town, keeping in mind that this would be yet another position with a big price tag, even part-time. Like, you know, most companies, they have an HR person, and, you know, we're a 200-person employer. So they're gonna, I think they're gonna look into it. They're gonna look into that, Donna?
I believe they will, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I have notes from when I first
So,
started. Oh, excuse me, sorry.
It's just something that they're gonna look at and think about, and it may end
We
up
need
coming
one.
back to us at some point.
Jack, if I could.
If I may add just one other thing to that, sorry, Joe. The complexity of administering these programs and benefits and everything else, and not only, you know, chasing the money when people retire, but we have so many different scenarios, depending on when people were hired, when they were hired, which union they were in, et cetera, that it's really not all that reasonable to expect a assistant to the administrator to do all of that HR work. And even though I think we're trying to streamline things more, to have more consistency and have fewer sort of unexplained situations, in other ways it keeps getting more complexity.
It does.
So it is a very important thing to at least consider, and I believe the council would also look at potentially combining, you know, that responsibilities with some other ones that are closely related, that we're sort of missing the capacity for. But again, that will be the council looking into it.
Do you have comments, Chuck?
Well, only that when she was talking earlier about the attempts to, if I'm not mistaken, was that state or federal law that changed, that allowed us to move them off onto Medicare at that age?
I think it's
Doesn't matter, but I just remember that when we were talking about it, what it was the officers would move to another town and decline the insurance so that they got the $2,000 whatever stipend included in their pay. But I know that we have their social security numbers. I mean, it just seems to me like, what is it, algorithm or something could handle, you know, through the Department of Taxation, could figure out, you know. I mean, the information's there. If anybody can look up for your, so we got the social security number. I mean, we know the number of Department of Taxation, so I don't see why we would need to hire somebody to do something I think could be done by a simple program.
I don't think anybody would allow us to get into the Division of Taxation to.
No, I'm saying you can inquire.
Not without the taxpayer's permission.
Well, if they're getting a pension from us, then I would think we have the ability to do, and you just said that it's required. Therefore, when merely, you know, conferring the information that he's supposed to supply. So, I mean, we're a municipality. I mean, I seem to think we have some rights and can check on somebody to see if he's complying with state law or whatever, you know, contractual obligations. That's just my opinion.
I mean, maybe make a legal, have the lawyer make a legal request for the information.
Well, we're paying the guy. He's, you know, he's still an employee of the town, basically, in retirement.
Well, I'm in full support of having some kind of HR professional here, because there's so many other issues that come up outside of just insurance, FMLA, the labor laws.
Oh, you're right, it's very, very, very complex.
And it's not so much complex as you don't want to get it wrong. And personally, since I've been here since 2011, I have said that that is a necessity here. Because I have seen questions that have come up, situations that have come up where we're playing lawyer and we shouldn't be.
Who did the handbooks for the employees? Wasn't that Wojcik?
Oh, I know.
The employee handbooks, wasn't that Wojcik and his clerk that did those?
Yep.
Yeah.
We still have it. It's due for an update.
Yeah, it's getting old, isn't it?
Well, but that was supposed to solve a lot of the problems. I mean, it was like, we had to put in a handbook, you can't steal, you know what I mean? It was crazy stuff. I'm sorry.
But that's the way it is now. You have to do that.
Well, the social media policies and all kinds of things that didn't exist years ago that you have to address.
I mean, you know, in the hospital where I work, the employee handbook was like 300 pages long. It tried to nail down every possibility.
Ours is all online. You can't even print it. I said ours is all online.
No,
You
but I
can't
mean,
even print it.
it's a
too
long
big.
thing, right?
Well, I praise
Jay.
automation.
So do we have anything else?
Just a quick
to
question,
ask
Jay?
just a quick one. Do you know when the audit will be presented to us?
Actually, I am waiting for the transparency report from the state. I was waiting today. I did not get it.
Okay,
I'm waiting tomorrow because I had asked for an extension until tomorrow.
thank you.
So, the state has required us to do a lot of extra work between the schools and the town in this municipal transparency report. And it's not that we don't get it done, but then it goes to the state. They approve it, they validate it, or they come back with questions. So they've added almost a whole month to the process. And we are not alone. There's many municipalities who had to get extensions this year. Actually, it's the second year in a row. Because I would just as soon be done with it, believe me.
Anything, Mike? Anybody else?
I just had one comment, and it was regarding the senior center, the Capitol. I just went back into my dockets and my records, and just for clarification, in fiscal year 18 and 19, there was no budget for senior center renovations. The last time there was budgeted for siding, door, and work was in fiscal year 17.
$17, $18.
17. 18 was zero.
Okay, because it was the
19
first year
zero.
that the other council was Katz and them, I was asking them about it, and they said the money was in there, so it had to be 16, 17 budget.
The money was in, there was.
That was the first year the money was put in for the roof.
The last time the senior center had any money for renovations was fiscal year 17.
Okay. And then last year.
None last year.
What's in it? It says right now it's 15,000.
This year, we're in.
No, last year's
It says
budget.
15,000 for last year.
That's the cap, that's not the approved budget
Oh,
you're
okay,
looking
sorry.
at. That didn't get approved.
I remember voting and putting the money in.
It's not
We
there.
did, but the
I'll look it up.
petitioner's budget,
Budget took it out.
I'd have to go back and review the document, but that's the budget that got passed, not ours.
Wait a minute. No, the money was in there. I saw their budget.
This is the last year's one, right? Look at it.
If you go to page 3 on that docket Ruth has,
Under capital.
Last, okay. No, this
page
is,
3,
I don't have the capital, I don't have the
It
capital.
was,
where do you see it? Senior center renovation, it's under the 2020 requests. There was nothing approved for 19. For 19. So Joe was saying that
15,000.
there was money that wasn't spent. There was no money.
There was no money put in.
There was no money put in.
I'm sorry.
So
That's the budget committee's budget, or is that the
Right.
one that
There's money
Santel?
now.
No, this is all the
There's
budget
money in-
committees.
there's money in the current year that we're
In fiscal year
in.
20, right now.
Right
there's
now, there's 15,000 to be
$15,000.
spent, but the year prior, there was
There was
none.
zero, and the year prior
There
to
is
that, there was
in
zero.
our budget committee budget, there was 15,000.
Correct.
Right, but the
For
petition.
this current year, which is
For
fiscal
this year,
20.
you're in 2020.
No, but they were asking about last year, and so I don't know why, she's saying it was zero.
I don't have
It became zero.
Current year, we're not talking calendar years, we're talking fiscal year.
No, I know, last budget.
It should be 18, 19.
No, two budgets.
No, we're working in the budget that we're in right now.
18, 19, I mean, 19, 20 had 15,000.
Correct,
That's
but
this year.
but Denise is saying.
No, next year. This is not this year, that 2021 is this year.
18, 19, it's zeroed out.
Just to clarify something in my mind. The two documents you sent me and I shared with everybody,
Over the end of the year.
which was the expense to,
Mantel took it out
spent budget actual expended and
It's right here. It's in.
percentages, and then the revenue budget.
for last year. It's in there, 15 grand.
They,
But you
that,
just said no.
the fiscal year starts
July 1.
July 1.
She said no.
All right.
I'm gonna look into
So then
that.
this is, represents 7 months
I
of
remember
use.
Yes.
voting for it.
Which is about,
I remember voting for it.
what,
Yes, so it's right.
Under 60%.
58%, something like that.
18, 19.
So when you're looking at these, and then you're looking at percentages, sort of put in the back of your head the magic number 58. So if we're under that number, may or may not be good, if we're over it, probably, you know, depending on if you're on revenue or expense.
But
Right.
it didn't get, but it didn't.
And I haven't had a
This
chance to really go through these things yet
Just
myself.
keep in mind, especially when you're, well, and when you're looking on both revenue or expense, there are some things that only occur once or twice a year. So you won't see, you know, you could see $0 spent so far. Well, that's because it's not due until May. Like, my software is done once a year in May. So right now, you won't see that it's been spent. It's not a regularly occurring thing. Similarly to some revenue that comes in quarterly. So you're only going to see 2 quarters, you're not going to see 7 months' worth. So you just kind of keep that in mind.
Just a quick question. Jan, would the fact that if there was zero in the senior center renovation last year, would that be maybe why Janet wasn't mentioning it?
I'm not sure we're talking about the same year.
Yeah, it is. It says right here. This is last year's
You're looking at-
docket.
No, that's the current year.
No, it isn't. This is last year's orange
This
docket.
is last.
It's 19.
this is-
1920, and now we're in 2021.
Right, but
Okay.
we are operating right now in fiscal year 20.
Right, it
There's
says,
$15,000
in there.
appropriated to spend.
Oh, okay.
Between now and June 30th.
Yep, okay.
There was no money to spend the last
Prior.
2 fiscal years.
2 years, okay,
Zero.
thank you.
And the plan is to spend that money in the next few months,
All
like
this, yeah.
Rick said. Very good.
You can't, because you haven't even drawn the bids yet. You gotta go before the council.
You guys all set?
It's gonna have to be
Any other
encumbered.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Takes 2 months just to get the bids finished,
Right.
if not more. I mean, advertise, get them back.
We don't have minutes, right?
Because Nancy would have taken
Nancy,
that.
No.
she's away. Okay, so we have to wait till next meeting on that.
So it was 16, 17, and then.
Okay, so we don't have the minutes. Administrative items, everybody keep in mind that we have a meeting with the schools this Saturday at 10 o'clock, starting at the high
That's right,
school.
it took 2 years off.
Where are we meeting at the high school? What, because there are several doors.
I would think it's the main one, that's what we went in last time.
Oh, how are we getting in?
Yes, because we've accessed different access points. So
I
are we
don't
gonna
know.
meet at the superintendent's office?
For the school?
For the high school.
The main?
We did meet in the superintendent's office last
We
year.
did.
and then-
Which is
I thought we
behind
had
the
it-
high
I thought we went right to the library.
It's on the-
We did, we met right at the front doors.
Yeah, we were in front of the library too much.
And then the other thing is, on the 11th, again, at the high school library, the school committee had an already scheduled meeting, which I think is mushroomed into something more significant. And they've specifically invited us and the town council, so just to be on the safe side, I uploaded a agenda to the state website because there's going to be 9 of us apparently there. And from what I understand, the topic will be mostly about state funding for things like special ed, or when we send a student to another district or we receive a student from another district. And from what I understand, all of the school districts are having similar meetings because they're all up in arms with the state about how this funding formula has changed. So that'll be the thrust of that.
Jay, is that meeting at 6 or at 7?
I'm sorry, so yeah, it's at 7 o'clock. And I imagine we're invited to participate in some way, but I got an idea it's mostly going to be like an informational thing. But that's all I know about that. Is everybody, I'm having nothing but trouble sending people documents. Have most of the ones been getting through and can you read them?
Yes.
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 Because I'm in babe in the woods with this stuff. But other people like in the town, like the town offices have said, well, the attachment didn't show up.
No?
I haven't totally failed, but
No, Jay, you're doing a
I'm
great
having a tough time with some of them.
Yeah, and there was an email today from Jean in the clerk's office who said she had posted everything, she received everything.
Okay. Yeah, I just found out I have to post them in 3 town buildings, and I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. So here, the library.
Senior
Senior
center.
center. So I sort of screwed that up once.
I forgot all about that.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, please. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Before we, okay, yeah.
Do we need more?
Do you have some?
No, I'm not going to go into agenda, I'm going to do that myself.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Have a motion to adjourn in a second, all those in favor?